got a match over there. He'd be right over. Oh.
Yeah, he might be one of those sandbaggers.
Okay, it looks like we've got pretty much everybody here. All right, today we're going to focus on stroke. And you know, when I think of the stroke and pocket billiards, the thing that jumps in my mind is that most people think it's a hit, like a punch or something. But, you know, it's not really at all. You watch all the best players in the world on YouTube or TV, you notice how relaxed they are. Their arm is just gently dangling with a very nice grip on the cue. And that's extremely important to be a consistently good player, because the stroke is a pendulum motion that swings back. Now when it swings back, you notice, if you see my hand like this, that my wrist is a little bit cocked. That's because my arm is so relaxed. The muscles are all loose. And that's what keeps the cue level, which is very important. Now if I'm gripping too tightly, you notice when I swing back, it's like a sawing motion up and down, isn't it? And that's really the kind of stroke that we don't want to emulate. But today we're going to do a little of that. You'll notice on this other table, I have an 8-ball scenario set up, and we're going to kind of analyze the table. And together, maybe determine the best way to run the balls. So we'll do a little shot selection. We'll talk about the key ball before the 8-ball, you know, things like that. And I know some of you play league and some of you are more beginners, but I think it'll be interesting for all of us to do that, because, you know, we're all here to improve our games and also to have fun. Now last week, I just want to do a quick review. Last week we learned how important it is to get your body in the correct position to shoot. Without, you know, having correct alignment and being able to aim and all that, I don't care how good your stroke is, it's not going to do you a whole lot of good. So I do want to say a few things about the pre-shot routine and review that before we move on. Now, the one thing I noticed by playing many years in league is that the pre-shot routine that we usually use during a match, when we get under pressure or we get a critical shot on the 8-ball or something, we throw it out. And all of a sudden we start agonizing over the shot. I've got to make this shot. I don't want to let my team down. You know, all these thoughts going through your head. And that's probably the absolute worst thing to do. When you have a shot like that, it's more important at that point to hold on to that pre-shot routine. And guess what? The shot becomes routine, just like any normal shot. Sometimes we want to agonize over the importance of a shot to the point where we get paralysis of analysis, I call it. And we all know what that is, where you're so locked up in your head that you're not even out on the table. Okay? But the pre-shot routine, there's some common things that all good pre-shot routines have. And let me just go over a few. The first thing is, if I take a normal shot, let's look at the 6-ball. The first thing you want to do on a pre-shot routine is to actually visualize the shot in your mind's eye. Visualize the shot exactly, you know, what the ball, where the ball's going to go in the pocket, what the cue ball's going to do. See it all in your mind's eye. All right? And in every single shot, besides seeing the shot and visualizing it, you want to also find what we call the aim point. And on a straight-in shot like I have here, the aim point is a half ball behind the contact point. And also draw that line all the way back. And last week we also learned, don't get too close to the table. That's an error. You want to stand back, because guess what? From here, I can see that shot a whole lot better than I can from here. In fact, there's a Lee Brett that gives lessons for the APA. He calls people to get too close to the table huggers. And what he points out, and correctly points out, is that when you're further back, you have a much better view of the shot, And you can actually draw that target line all the way back. Now in my pre-shot routine, which might be a little different than yours, I have some cues that I use. And we all have different ones as well. But for me, I use my cue as an aligning tool. I've got my right toe right on that line, and I've got my feet at about a 45-degree angle. But once I see the line and draw it all the way back, get my chin over the cue, I can take my left foot forward and swing down. Now that's a critical point. That's where you want to start your warm-up strokes like this. But a lot of times what you're going to notice when you're working on your game is that you're going to get down on the shot and it's going to be off one side or the other. Don't just twist your body back over. Stand back up and adjust your feet. Find the line again. Swing down. In other words, if you watch good players like Johnny Archer, Earl Strickland, all the guys on TV and stuff, you'll notice that they'll get up and down on a shot so they get down on it perfectly. Then they're ready to shoot. And you can feel it. You can feel it. As soon as you're down on that shot perfectly, you'll feel confident. You know you're going to make the shot, which is a big difference. Okay? Let's go over it again. Visualize the shot. Relax. Breathe. See the aim point. Draw that line all the way back. Swing down with your left foot. Now the warm-up strokes are crucially important too. They're actually the rehearsal of the actual shot that you visualized in your mind. So in the warm-up strokes are kind of your last chance to make sure everything is good with your shot. And for me, the warm-up strokes, like for this shot, I'm only going to hit a stop shot, so I'm not going to use a lot of power on this shot. So my warm-up strokes on this shot are going to be a little bit shorter, because I only have a very short distance to go and I just want to stop the ball dead. And then, crucially important is when you don't lift your head up until you hear that sound of the ball hitting the pocket. Very important. Any questions on the pre-shot routine? And again, it's going to be individualized to your pace and speed that you have. We all have different idiosyncrasies that'll be involved. But believe it or not, I practice my pre-shot routine. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just get up and down in a shot until I can just do it every time and feel confident that I'm going to make the ball. All right, the stroke. The stroke in pocket billiards is I think the closest thing I could associate it with is if you had a spear, and everybody grab a cue right now. If you need a house cue, there's a couple over there. And I'll try to do this so you can all see me. I'll stand over this way. But go ahead and lift your cue up like this. And to have a good stroke, it's absolutely essential to cradle the cue. Now, what do I mean by cradle? Does that word resonate with anybody? I said, if I say I cradle my cue in my grip, how does that resonate with people? What do you think I mean when I say that? Baby cradle? Okay.
You just hold it. Just hold it.
Yeah. And last week I noticed some of you were holding it kind of in your fingers. Now that tenses up your whole arm. That's not good. When I say cradle, that means that my fingers are just wrapped around it very gently with the thumb straight down. Almost like I was holding a paper cup. Right? That's as much pressure as you want to put on the cue. Nice and relaxed, cradling the cue so it's just dangling in your hand. Now, one of the important parts of the stroke is that the arm hang down straight at 90 degrees. You'll notice that some people have their hand way up here like this, and that creates tension, or they have way back here, and that creates tension. It should be dangling straight down.
Yeah.
Eric really needs to work on this because he has a tendency to hold it in his fingers, and that causes his stroke to go awry. And that's one thing that we'll work on, all right? But cradling it. Now, the pendulum, if you watch a pendulum, like a metronome or whatever, you notice that it swings back, but as it swings back on a pendulum, it slows down when it reaches the back end, doesn't it? Now, a lot of novices and amateurs in pool, you'll notice they swing back and jerk it quickly forward. That's wrong. It should be a smooth rhythmic motion, just like a metronome, swinging back, a gentle pause, and then swinging through the same distance. Now, depending on the power that you want on a shot, means that your pendulum will be a little bit longer with a little bit more follow-through. That creates power in your stroke. So those are real crucial factors on the stroke. But the key is that grip. Once you get the grip down and your arm is hanging at 90 degrees, practice swinging back and forth like this, just like a pendulum. And you'll notice as I swing back, there's a gentle pause, not anything serious, but then it allows me to make that transition from the backstroke to the forestroke. And Tom and Bradley and I will be working with you today, and I'm going to give you some drills to work on as far as the stroke goes. Let me grab that piece of chalk and give you some examples.
That's what I shoot.
All right, I have drill number 1 on the table here, and what I've done, and you'll notice I have that one set up for left-handers, but I don't think our left-handers are here today. But what I'd like you to do, and this is real important for me, the stop shot in pool is the most important shot. Okay. Now, the drill that I have set up for you here is that a drill where you'll get to hit a stop shot from different distances. You notice on this one, my stroke is going to be a little bit less because I don't need as much power. But to make the cue ball stop, you need to accelerate through the cue ball. So, on this shot, I'll go through my whole routine, swing down, take my warm-up strokes. According to this shot, you'll notice I'll just have a nice, smooth stroke. On the very last stroke, I'll pause. In other words, you'll notice that my backstroke was about equivalent to my follow stroke. But if I have a little bit further to go, now we're going to hit another stop shot from this distance, which is a little bit longer. So you notice my pendulum is going to get a little bit longer this time, because I need more power to accelerate to get the cue ball to stop. And then if I get a little longer, back to here, and you'll notice as I do this, that I'm hitting the cue ball just a little bit lower each time. That way I don't have to hit it with so much force. Now this one, my pendulum will get a little bit longer. And my bridge is a little bit further away from the ball. Stay down until you hear the ball hit the back of the pocket. Trust me, just being able to master that drill and doing that stop shot from different distances will really enhance your game. Here's another little tool I brought with me today to help you with that, and you're welcome to use this if you like. But I like to use this actually without even using a ball. Like even before you start practicing your stroke, this is a really good way to tell how straight your stroke is. You'll notice that I'm not even using a ball, I'm just imagining that a cue ball is there. But you notice I have these 2 red lines to kind of guide my cue. So during my warm-up strokes, I can tell how straight my stroke is because I'm just keeping it right in between the red lines. When I'm ready to hit the ball, I'll pause slightly, draw the cue ball back, follow through. How straight were you? Did you go one side of the line or the other? Did the cue come in the air? In fact, Bradley last week had that really cool drill where he put the coffee stirrer above, which kind of measured, you know, if you come up like that, which was, I'm gonna start using that from now on. That's cool.
And you put the stick on top of it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you did that too, didn't you?
Yeah, me too.
So you,
Yeah,
back to the stop shot for some,
yeah.
you said a little bit lower. Where do they start and where do they go? Start center and go quarter to the...
Okay, good question. This one, I can pretty much hit dead center. In fact, I swing down, take my warm-up strokes. I'm so close to the ball that all I need to do is make it skid like that. But when I get a little further away, I probably go down a quarter of a tip to make it stop. That way I don't have to use as much force. And a little bit longer stroke, a little bit lower on the cue ball, about a quarter of a tip. And have some fun with that. Work with your partners. That'll be a good drill because mastering the stop shot is one of the most important things in pool because it forms the foundation of establishing a good stroke and also for playing position. Like when we talk about cut shots, like this, if I hit a stop shot, it always takes a 90-degree line. In other words, if I hit a skidding ball that's like the stop shot, and it hits the ball at that angle, it'll always take a 90-degree line from the center of the pocket for shooting. And obviously I can change that tangent line by hitting it above center or below center. Above center takes it to here, below center takes it over here.
You know what really helps on that practice is
Yeah.
I think it's Lhotka that makes it, that ball with
Oh yeah.
circles and everything.
Actually, I've got one in my little bag over there. In fact, that's another thing when you're doing this, this drill, instead of using the cue ball, use a stripe ball. Because you can see the, you know, when you inadvertently put English on it or something like that, that's always a good thing. Any questions so far? All right, good. All right, the other drill, this one, go ahead, Linda.
No, I'm just telling myself, because that's the first time I've actually registered that, when you were talking about the shot, that it's at a 90-degree with the pocket, not at a 90-degree with...
Right.
Okay, I was just wrong.
And for terminology, this is kind of a good thing to know. If I hit the stop shot from here on the one ball, it's straight in, so the cue ball is going to stop. Really, when you're at an angle, what we call the shot is a stun shot, because it's skidding to here and then it'll take that 90-degree angle. So a stun shot and a stop shot are basically the same stroke, but the cue ball reacts, you know, differently.
And it goes 90 degrees to the
Yeah.
pocket. And it's the cue ball that does the 90.
Right. Now this other drill in your handout is simply to practice your follow, your stop, and your draw. And have a goal or objective while you're doing it. And we did this in the intro class, but it's so important I'd like to repeat it in this class as well, because it's an excellent drill. And again, you can start out just stopping the ball right there, doing all your stroke techniques. And then after you get tired of that, then you're gonna elevate, not elevate, but you're gonna raise your bridge and lower your bridge to get a draw shot and then a follow shot. Now we'll start off with the follow, and I won't do every single ball. The first one, I'm going to try to get the cue ball to roll to the 8 ball, then I'll try the 4 ball, and just have a goal in mind each time. But on a follow shot, you raise your bridge a little bit like this, but you still keep the cue level. Take your warm-up strokes.
Who it is, man. You dropping me a little wrong. You know what I mean?
one I'll try to follow right to the floor, and this will kind of give you a feel for speed control. Swing down for the 4. Oh, is that the 2? It's purple too? How did we get a purple 2?
Yeah, that's what it is, a purple too.
Okay, and when you get bored with that, now you're going to try drawing the ball back to different distances. Now, I always like to emphasize this. The draw shot is the most unreliable shot there is. You always take a stop shot or a follow shot before you draw the cue ball. But the draw shot is the sexy shot that everybody loves to do. Now, the key to the draw is when you stroke it, the cue stick has to accelerate to the lower part of the ball without popping up in the air. That's the key to a draw shot. And it isn't a hit or a jab, it's a release.
Budweiser 88 beer.
So we'll bring it back to the 5 to start with. Very hardest one to control. Much harder than the follow shot. Now we'll try to bring it back to the 3, a shorter one. Now I'll try one and bring it all the way back to the side pocket. In other words, you'll notice each time, that time I used less follow through, less stroke. This time I'm going to need more follow through and more stroke.
I'm not an extravagant. Every time I come up there,
Anyway, that's a great way to learn those 3 shots. And again, I don't want you to mess with English to the right or left today, because you absolutely have to learn how to use the center of the cue ball before you worry about, applying a lot of English. Yeah.
From more stroke, you mean more speed, more force?
Actually, when I say more stroke, that simply means that I swing the cue back further and I have more follow through. See, the problem, some people will take the cue back and just lurch forward trying to hit it. That's the absolute worst thing to do. You want it smooth and rhythmic. So it swings back, just like a pendulum. Slows and then goes all the way through.
So basically what you're saying, the further back you go, the further back the cue ball is going to go.
Well, the more power that you'll impart to the cue ball. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So if I only come back this far, the cue ball's not going to come back very far.
Yeah.
If I go back further, that will make the cue ball come back further.
Yeah. Like, let's say that this is my last solid, and I got the 8 ball right there. I would hit I would hardly take any backstroke at all because I didn't need to impart a lot of power or force to it. But if I had a shot like this, let's say I got the 9 there. And I want to take the 9 as my last shot and I need to bring the cue ball over there. Watch how my stroke changes on the shot.
and I'll tell you,
See, I had to hit that with so much more force. I had a longer backstroke and a longer follow.
How far down the table can you realistically stop a cue ball? I mean, if that 8 ball was here and the cue ball was down there, could you still realistically stop that?
All right, Fred just asked a really good question.
It doesn't seem like it works
No,
for me.
that's a really good question. Here's an example of what Fred just asked. Let's say I've got the 2 ball here, the 8 ball here, and these are the last 2 balls on the table. But my cue ball is way back here and I'm totally straight in. All right, your question here would be, how do I stop the 2 ball so I don't follow and scratch, right? Well, what you would do on a shot like this is you'd hit this extremely low on the cue ball. Because by the time it gets there, chances are it's going to start rolling over and following pocket is at. So on a shot like this, I'll hit the cue ball almost down to here to make it to stop, because I've got so much distance between the cue ball and the two ball. And I'm going to need a lot of stroke, a lot of acceleration through the cue ball. So it's going to be a little bit longer, my warm-up stroke. See, that was like a draw shot, but by the time it got there, it was spinning backwards. It started skidding about here, and when it hit the object ball, it had no spin backwards or forwards on it, and that means it stopped. But it's all relative to how far away you are from the ball. If you're real close, you can hit it dead center to make it stop. But that's the basis for playing position. And you got to master the stop shot. And on your handout, I have some stop shots from here that you can practice. And then once you got the stop shot down, try working on your follow and your draw. Now, let's see how many students we have today. Okay, we don't really need this table. I'd like to get you go ahead and practicing your drills. And after a while, I'll call you over and then we're going to show you an 8-ball scenario. But let's get you out there playing right now and practicing those two drills.
Okay. Remember, I just won't be doing much.
All right.
Yep.
You want the blue or the regular? You got regular Red Bull and blue one.